The story starts with an assassin assassinating some members of the mafia, and we see that he is really skilled at his job. He then completes the assassination of the requested targets, and he tries to leave, but his assistant mentions that there are still more mafia members remaining. The assassin states that the organization only ordered them to assassinate 6 men, and he is not killing anyone else. The assistant mentions that there are still key people down there, and if they let them live, the mafia will just resume their operations. The assassin then states that they are not heroes of justice, and they are just tools who only do what they are ordered to. He mentions that the mission went as planned, so they will leave now. The assassin then notices an unmanned recon drone around them, and he quickly drives away in the car with his assistant. He states that they have been spotted by a recon drone, and the border guards will be coming after them soon. He tells the assistant to do as he says, and sometime later the border guards are on their tails. The guards then receive fire from the target vehicle, and they fire on the vehicle, making it to blast. We then go to the past before the border guards showed up, and we see that the assassin told his assistant to hang the gun from the car's roof, and pass a wire across the trigger, and with this the gun will fire automatically with the bumping of the car. He told her that they will leap from the car while the drone is focused on it, and if they are lucky the car will blast due to the spare gas tank they have. Returning to the present, the assassin and his assistant are hiding in the canyons close by, and the assassin thinks that he wasn't expecting to be found out by a drone, and he wonders how this happened. Afterwards, the assistant notices that the border guards have moved away from the area, and the assassin states that they will wait here till dawn, and he explains that if they try to escape now, the relative temperature of the ground will make it easier for the drone's infrared camera to spot them. He mentions that they will move when the sun rises and the temperature of the ground exceeds the human body. The both of them then rest, and the assistant asks the assassin why he became an assassin. The assassin states that he was born into and raised by the organization, so he didn't have much choice, as they raised him to be a weapon of assassination. The assistant wonders if he is satisfied with this, and the assassin mentions that he is. He states that he is proud to be the greatest tool in the organization, and he has no doubts. The assistant then wonders if he doesn't have any human emotions, and the assassin states that there is no need for emotions in their line of work as they only cloud their judgment. He tells her that he will be retiring after this job as no one can overcome aging, and he mentions that he will be starting a new job in Japan to train new assassins looking to join the organization. He states that this job was training for that, and this is why he had to bring a novice like her along. The girl states that she is not a novice, and she mentions that she was at the top of her class. The assassin states that her classmates must be trash, and he mentions that he was more useful than her when he was a virgin. The girl then tries to take out her gun, but the assassin points it at her instead. He then asks her what this is, and the girl states that it's her gun. He wonders why this is pointing at her, and the girl states that she doesn't know. The assassin mentions that it's because she is too trusting, and she is assuming that he won't kill her. The assassin then states that he was ordered to kill her once the mission was done to not leave any evidence behind, and he pulls the safety of the gun. He then wonders what she was taught to do in this situation, and the girl states that she was taught to sidestep the attacker's weapon towards the hot side of the gun. The assassin wonders why she is not doing that, and the girl states that she knows that it won't work on him. The assassin then explains that he called her a novice because she doesn't have faith in her abilities. The assassin then returns her gun to her, and he lies down to rest, and the girl then threatens him with the gun. The assassin doesn't react to her, and the girl wonders if he is trusting that she won't shoot, and she states that she thought that professionals weren't supposed to trust anyone. The assassin states that the girl can't shoot him as he has removed the bullets from the gun. He mentions that she should have been able to figure that out from the weight of the gun, and this is why he called her a novice. The next day the assassin goes to one of his safe houses, and he contacts the organization, after which he gets a fake passport for him and his partner, and some plane tickets to Japan. The scene then cuts to him at the plane, and moments after the plane takes off, the assassin finds out that according to the news their flight has been hijacked. The assistant wonders what's happening here, and the assassin states that the organization must be trying to get rid of him, as he knows too many of their secrets. He then finds out that the plane will be crashing, and he goes to the control room to prevent that, but he notices that the controls are all busted, and a military aircraft then blows the plane up. The assassin then dies, and he thinks that he trusted the organization, and followed their orders, and he would have killed himself if he was ordered to, but he was betrayed instead. He wonders why, and the emotions he suppressed inside him resurfaces. The assassin then wakes up in an unfamiliar place, and a girl then states that she can't believe that the world's finest assassin let himself be assassinated. She then explains that she summoned the assassin's soul here after his death, and she introduces herself as the goddess. The assassin wonders why he is here, and the goddess states that he has two choices in front of him now. He can either reincarnate as a stranger with his memories wiped clean, or he can accept her request and be reborn into another world, and this way he can keep his memories. The assassin then wonders who the goddess wants him to kill, and the goddess states that she wants him to kill the hero in his new world. The goddess then uses her magic to explain the cultures and technology of the world that the assassin will be born into, and the assassin thinks that this world is different from his last one, and the greatest difference here is the existence of magic. The assassin then states that he understands this world, and he wonders why the hero needs to be killed as he seems like a valorous man. The goddess then states that 16 years after the assassin's birth the hero will defeat the Demon King, but after that he will use his powers to plunge the world into chaos, and 18 years later the world will be destroyed. The assassin then states that according to the knowledge he just received there are limits to human capabilities, but the hero is the sole exception to this. He possesses greater abilities than any other human, and the goddess states that this is why she chose an assassin for this job. The assassin then states that he can kill the hero, and he asks the goddess to give him the best possible abilities within the standard limits. The goddess then states that she will grant him the highest stats a human can have, and she then shows the assassin all the skills the humans can have, and she states that humans can have at most 5 skills. She states that she will let him choose the skills himself, and the assassin then asks the goddess if he can kill the hero as soon as he is ready, and the goddess states that he has to wait until the hero has killed the Demon King, as the Demon King can only be killed by the hero. The assassin then asks the goddess if she wants him to kill the hero or save the world. The goddess states that it should be fine if the world can be saved without killing the hero, and the assassin then chooses his skills. He states that a hero is born with 30 skills, and at least 5 of them are S rank, and the remaining are A rank. He then chooses the rapid recovery skill from the S rank, and he states that this can increase the recovery rate of his stamina, mana, healing, and everything else. From the A rank skills he chooses Spell Weaver, and he states that this will help him create new spells. From B rank skill he chooses Limitless Growth, and from the C rank skill he chooses Martial Arts. He then notices a D rank skill, and he can't believe that this skill is classified as D rank. He then chooses Wind, Water, Fire and Earth as his attributes, and the goddess then reincarnates the assassin. She states that he will be born into the noble house of Tuatha, and she mentions that they make their living as assassins. The assassin is then born into another world, and his father Kian names him Lug, and his mother Esseri states that it's a wonderful name. She then asks Kian if he intends to raise Lug as a Tuatha, and Kian states that the kingdom needs the Tuatha, as some infections can only be rooted out by assassinations. Esseri mentions that she is scared that they are going to lose him just like Ruff, and Kian states that he won't make the same mistake again, as he also doesn't want to lose a second child. The story then goes ahead in time, and Lug is now 7 years old, and he is out hunting. He thinks that he still can't use magic, as he doesn't have a mentor to teach him, and he thinks that until then he will focus on increasing his mana. Lug then hunts a rabbit, and he goes to his house to cook it. His mother asks Lug to let her help him, but Lug denies to accept her help. He thinks that he needs to grow strong if he wants to fight the hero, and for that he needs to consume meals based on nutritional science, and by cooking for himself he can acquire the nutrients he lacks. He then cooks the food in a pressure cooker, and Esseri states that the pressure cooker that Lug made for them is really convenient. She states that it makes the food cook in an instant, and Kian states that Lug is a smart boy, and an assassin needs to have a flexible mind. Lug then finishes making his cream stew, and everyone eats it. His parents think that this stew is amazing, and his mother mentions that they should serve this at this year's harvest festival. Lug then states that his mother is cheerful, and his father puts a kind face in public, and they look like a happy family, but his father has another side to him. Kian then asks Lug to come to the training room after he finishes eating, and after lunch Lug goes to the training room. There his father asks him to strip, and he checks his physical development. Lug explains that once a week his father checks his physical growth, and he determines his next training course according to this. He states that the Tuatha are the Alvan Kingdom's greatest medical experts, but secretly they are assassins who carry out the royal family's orders. He states that his father has taught him medical and assassination techniques, so he could be the heir to this family of assassins. Kian then states that Lug has been growing wonderfully, and since he has grown so much, he should be able to undergo the operation now. He states that he will be giving Lug the mystic eyes of Tuatha, and Lug explains that the mystic eyes are a secret of Tuatha. Magical surgery is used to strengthen eyesight, and this allows the user to even perceive mana. He mentions that this surgery was perfected after experiments on several death row inmates, and it allows the user to see at great distances, and it even improves depth perception and low light vision. The scene then cuts to Essari feeding Lug, and we see that the operation has been completed. Lug states that he can handle this himself, but his mother mentions that this is her job, and she states that Lug has been depending on her less and less as he grows. Kian then comes there, and he mentions that Lug's wounds must have healed by now. He then removes the bandages on Lug's eyes, and Lug notices that his vision has improved. He notices that he can even see mana now, and Kian states that he will also teach this surgical technique to Lug so one day he can perform this on his own child. Lug states that he will do his best to learn it, and Kian then mentions that he has some good news, and he states that he has found someone to teach Lug magic. He states that they will be arriving next week, and he asks Lug to prepare for their arrival. The scene then cuts to Essari dressing up Lug as a girl, and she thinks that Lug looks great. Lug then mentions that his magic teacher will be arriving today, and he needs to get changed now. Essari states that Lug will be going dressed like that, and the scene then cuts to Lug meeting his magic teacher in his girly outfit. He thinks that she looks like a child, and the girl states that she heard that she would be teaching a boy, and Lug explains that he is a boy, and his mother dressed him like this. The girl then mentions that Lug is too young to learn magic, and Kian states that Lug is exceptionally talented. The girl then states that Lug must think that she is also a child, and she then uses some powerful fire magic, and she states that she is one of the top 5 mages in Swiggle, and her name is Jia V. Kone. The story continues, and Lug formally introduces himself to Dia. Dia states that Lug doesn't have to be so formal with her as she is only 3 years older than him, and starting tomorrow she will spend 2 weeks to teach Lug everything that there is to know about magic. Dia then gives Lug a far stone, and she states that this stone can be used to store mana. She then tells Lug to pour his mana into the stone, and she mentions that this will help them determine Lug's mana capacity. Lug then pours his mana into the stone, and he thinks that thanks to limitless growth and rapid recovery his magical capacity has increased 1,000-folds. Lug then pours too much mana into the stone, and Dia is surprised to see this, and she tells Lug to throw the stone quickly. The stone then blasts in mid-air causing a great explosion, and Lug's parents come there after seeing this. They wonder if Lug was responsible for this, and they are happy to know that their son could wield such powerful magic. Kian then thinks that this spell seems much more suited for war, and he asks Dia to teach him something suitable for assassination next. They then leave, and Dia thinks that Lug's parents are weird. Lug then states that he wants more far stones, and he wonders if he can get more. Dia states that Lug can't as they are treasured objects from her home region of Kone, and she can't give them to people from other regions. At night Lug thinks that he needs more far stones, as they will be necessary for assassinating the hero. He wonders how he can get them, and Dia then comes to Lug's room, and she states that she will be sleeping with him today. The next day Dia tests Lug's magic attributes, and she is surprised to find that he can use all 4 basic attributes. She thinks that this is unbelievable, but now that she knows his magical attribute and capacity, she will be able to teach him properly. Dia then teaches Lug how to convert his mana into attributes, and Lug learns it with the guidance of Dia. A spell then pops into Lug's mind, and Dia states that they can receive spells as revelations from gods, and the more they cast a certain spell, the more new spells they will receive. Dia then teaches Lug how to cast the spell, and she mentions that pronunciation is the key while casting spells, and the accuracy of their pronunciation can affect their magic. By night Lug learns how to cast spells, and he thinks that this is only the first step, and someday he must acquire spells powerful enough to assassinate the hero. Dia then comes to Lug's room again, and she states that the gratin she had today was good. She then asks Lug why he is so good at everything, and she mentions that he is smarter than her even though he is younger. Lug states that his parents taught him well, and he mentions that he will make something good for Dia tomorrow, and they go to sleep. Afterwards Lug asks Dia if they can use a spell transcribed by someone else instead of the letters in their head. They then try it, and Lug uses the spell for making iron, and he is successful. Dia wonders why no one else has found out about this, and Lug thinks that this world must have been designed so people only consider casting spells given to them by God. Lug then notices that the copper and iron spells are nearly identical, and he then asks Dia to transcribe all the spells she knows. He mentions that they might be able to create a new spell by changing a few parts if they figure out which word means what. Dia then transcribes the spells, and Lug figures out how the spells are created, and he then creates the spell for making gold. Dia tries to cast the spell, but she fails and she starts to feel weak. Lug wonders what's going on, and he then tries the spell, and he is able to create gold. Lug then thinks that this must be his skill spell weaver at work, and those who don't possess this skill must not be able to use spells that they created themselves. Lug then transcribes this spell, and he asks Dia to give it another try. Dia then manages to create gold, and she realizes that she can also use new spells if she has Lug transcribe them. She then states that they should create more impressive spells together, and a few days later Lug and Dia are at an isolated place to try a new spell that Lug created. Lug then uses his spell called Fire to make a gun, and it tests out perfectly. Dia then tries the same spell, and it works perfectly for her as well. Lug then thinks that now he can snipe targets like he did in his past life, but this doesn't have enough firepower to kill the hero. Lug then uses the new spell called Bombard to make a cannon, and he fires it. Its power is devastating, but the cannon cracks soon after firing, and Dia wonders what Lug is planning to shoot with that. Lug then asks Dia if she would like to use Bombard, and Dia states that she doesn't have enough mana for that. The scene then cuts to Dia and Lug sleeping together, and Dia states that it's already been 2 weeks, so it will soon be time for them to say goodbye. She hopes that they could stay like this forever, and Lug then uses his magic to form a knife, and he gives it to Dia. He states that this is the product of their spells, and we see that the knife is really sharp. Dia then states that she will keep on creating more spells even after returning home, and the next time they meet Lug can transcribe them. Lug states that he will, and Dia then gives Lug a necklace that she was wearing. Dia then asks Lug to promise her that he will come visit her when she really wants to see him, and Lug promises her that. The scene then cuts to Dia leaving, and after she leaves Kian mentions that since Lug has grown this much today he will teach him the truth about the Tuatha. Afterwards Kian and Lug go somewhere by carriage, and while on the carriage they talk about the rules and mottos of Tuatha. Kian then mentions that today he is going to teach Lug the secrets required to hone those skills, and they then go to a prison. At the prison Kian states that death row criminals from around the kingdom have been gathered here, and they can be used for medicinal experiments and killing practice. Kian then mentions that some people experience resistance while taking a life, and Lug must practice so this doesn't happen to him. Lug then asks his father why he raised him to be hesitant to kill a person then, and he states that his father could have raised him as a tool instead. Kian mentions that it's because they are people not tools, and they don't kill because they are ordered to. They have to determine whether killing the person is actually going to benefit the kingdom, and they can only take action after that. Kian then takes Lug to a criminal, and he tells him that her crimes are robbery, murder, and arson, and he tells Lug to assassinate her in any way he sees fit. The girl then asks Lug to spare her, and she begs for her life saying that she only committed those crimes in necessity, but this has no effect on Lug, and he kills her in an instant. The scene then changes to Lug and his family out in the town for the harvest festival, and Kian thinks that the harvest seems to be good this year as well. Kian then shows Lug that the cream stew seems to be popular, and the price of meat also seems to be stable. Lug then thinks that with a turnaround like this he might be able to find someone with ample mana, but he has no luck. Lug then thinks that he is now 10 years old, and he has to kill the hero within 8 years. He thinks that he would like to acquire a skilled assistant with mana to do that, but most people with mana are either nobles, or belong to their branch families, so they are hard to recruit. He thinks that he has to be patient in his search as ordinary people rarely possess mana. Afterwards Lug goes out hunting, and while in the forest, he thinks that he needs to go see Dia before the snow gets too deep. Lug then hears a pack of wolves tracking their prey, and he thinks that he is going to snatch it from right under them. Lug then notices that they are tracking a human girl, and he then saves the girl from the wolves. He takes out all of the wolves easily with his bare hands using some gloves that he conjured with magic. Lug then asks the girl who she is, and what she is doing so deep in the woods. The girl then explains that her family is poor, and she was abandoned to reduce the number of mouths to feed. She mentions that a traveler told her that the region of Tuatha is wealthy, and she started walking towards it. Lug then makes some rice porridge, and he gives it to the girl on the condition that she has to eat it as slowly as she can. The girl agrees, and she eats the porridge. Lug then gives her another bowl of it, and he mentions that her stomach will reject the food if she eats it too quickly. Lug then tells the girl that he is the son of the Lord of Tuatha, and the girl then thinks that God must be real. Lug asks her to explain, and the girl states that God told her in a dream that she is going to have a faithful encounter. Lug then wonders if the girl wants to come with him, and he states that she will always be fed if she does. He states that he needs her, and this makes the girl happy as no one has ever told her that they needed her. Lug then asks the girl if she thinks that he is a good person, and the girl states that he is. Lug then asks the girl if she can keep a secret, and he mentions that he has killed someone before, and he will continue killing in the future, as this is his work. He then asks the girl again if he is a good person, and the girl states that as far as she is concerned Lug is good. Lug then mentions that she will have to help him with his work if she is going to come with him, and the girl states that she will do anything for him. The girl then introduces herself as Tart, and Lug then explains that he had noticed that Tart had mana, and by her words he found out that she was sent by the goddess. He then demonstrated his power to her, and he showed her kindness, and he told her that he needed her to make it seem like he can give her life a purpose. He then shared a secret with her to earn her trust, and he let her make the final decision so she won't betray him, as it would be like admitting her mistake. This completed the brainwashing, and it went just as he planned. The story then goes back in time by 40 years, and the goddess summons the soul of the deceased best special forces soldier, and she also tasked him with killing the hero. In the present, the goddess checks how that person is doing, and she finds out that he has become a shut-in meat. The scene then changes to Tart waking up Lug in the morning, and Lug is now 12 years old. Lug then wakes up, and Tart states that the breakfast is ready, and she helps Lug change. Lug then states that he had a dream today about the time when he met Tart, and Tart states that she is embarrassed as she looked really thin back then. Lug states that it's true, and he didn't expect her to become so beautiful. This makes Tart embarrassed, and she leaves the room. The scene then cuts to the family eating breakfast, and Lug states that Tart doesn't need to take her servant duties so seriously, as it's merely a cover to keep her by his side. Tart states that she doesn't mind this, and Esseri states that Tart has gotten better at cooking. Kian mentions that Lug chose well when he took her in, as she also helps him with his work. Tart states that she would have died if Lug didn't save her, so her heart and body both belong to Lug. Lug then asks Tart to come to the training room after breakfast, and Tart then goes to the training room. At the training room, Lug asks her to strip, and he checks the development of her muscles. Lug then explains that his father imposed 2 conditions on him for training Tart, and firstly he had to instruct her himself, and secondly if she ever betrayed them, he will be responsible for killing her. Lug then mentions that Tart has acquired the body and skills of an assassin in just 2 years, and he tells her to put her clothes back on. Lug then states that there is nothing wrong with Tart physically, but the problem is her intuition. Tart then attacks Lug, and Lug defeats her easily. Tart then apologizes to him for not being able to meet his expectations, and she thinks that she is good with a spear, but not a knife. Later, Lug thinks that Tart isn't talented, but she is hardworking, and her training is going fine, but her progress with combat skills has been slow. He thinks that she is talented with a spear, and it's possible that she has a spear skill, but it's not suitable for assassination, as it can't be hidden. He thinks that he has to come up with a knife training program suitable for her, and afterwards Lug finds Tart training by herself in the training room. Lug then makes a spear that Tart can conceal by folding, and he gives it to her. Tart tries out the spear, and we see that she is really gifted with it. Lug then states that this is great, and the scene then cuts to Tart waking up Lug another morning. Lug notices that Tart is on the bed with him, and Tart reminds Lug that he told her that she could sleep with him if she ever felt lonely. Tart then states that with her spear she can finally be someone who can be of help to him, and Lug thinks that everything is going according to his plan. The story continues, and we see that 35 years ago the goddess summoned the soul of the world's finest samurai, and she also gave him the mission to slay the hero. In the present, the goddess checks how the samurai is doing, and she notices that he is not doing good, and she hopes that the next one does better. The scene then cuts to Lug and Tart visiting the marketplace in Tuatha, and they think that the market is really thriving. At the market, Lug interacts with various people of his domain, and they all thank him for helping with the increase in their harvest by introducing certain fertilizers. A man then comes to Lug, and he states that his cow's leg has been injured, and Lug goes to look at it. In the evening, Lug and Tart are returning by carriage, and on the way, Tart states that Lug is as popular as ever with the people. Lug then states that gaining gratitude and recognition among people is a necessary part of managing a domain, and Tart thinks that this is so different from the place she was born in, and Lug wonders if Tart wishes that she had been born in Tuatha. Tart states that she doesn't, as she wouldn't have been able to meet Lug if she did. Lug mentions that he would have found her no matter where she was, and at night Lug notices that all of his far stones are already full of mana. He states that he learned how to produce far stone by analyzing the one Dia gave him, and since then he has been carrying them around with him, filling them with mana and storing them. He states that the more mana he uses, the more he grows, and these stone can also be used as weapons. Tart then comes to Lug's room, and she states that the master wants to talk with Lug in the training room. The scene cuts to Lug in the training room, and Kian asks him how Tart is. Lug mentions that Tart is innocent, and Kian states that he suspected her to be a spy sent here to steal Tuatha techniques. Lug states that on top of observing her for 2 years, he has also been examining her through their conversations, and he has observed no signs of her lying. Kian states that he is glad that they don't have to kill her, and Lug mentions that it's only natural to assume that she is a spy, as their meeting was too good to be a coincidence. Kian states that it would be a miracle of a lifetime if it really was a coincidence, and he then mentions that Lug's next training exercise will be a special test. If Lug can pass the test, and one more training exercise, then he will recognize Lug as a full member of the family and let him handle jobs as an assassin. Kian states that Lug will have to fight him for this test, and it doesn't matter if he wins or loses, he just wants to see what Lug is capable of. The scene then cuts to Lug facing off against his father, and since this is a battle between assassins, they both try to take each other by surprise. Lug's father locates him first, and he shoots at him, and Lug then follows the trajectory of the arrows to find his father, and they then face off against each other. They then hide again after an exchange of blows, and Lug then falls into a trap, and his father attacks him again. They then hide once more after exchanging a few blows, and Lug realizes that his father is reading his moves. Lug thinks that he can do this as well, and he then predicts his father's moves, and he is able to defeat him. Kian then states that he has nothing more left to teach Lug, and now he just needs experience. He mentions that Lug will eventually be put through his final test, and until then he will be assisting him with his work. From then on, Lug went on various assassinations with his father, and this helped him gain experience. Afterwards, Kian goes to a noble's house with Lug and Tart to check up on the noble's health, and he tells the noble that everything is fine, and there is nothing to worry about. The group then leaves there, and on their way home, Lug states that the noble wasn't sick enough for his father to pay him a visit. Kian mentions that Lug is right, and he wonders if he noticed anything. Lug states that the noble had more guards than before, and the defensive barrier had been strengthened, so they will have to think carefully about how they will enter if he ever becomes their target. Kian states that Lug is correct, and he then mentions that a noble's castle is like a fortress and sometimes they have to conceal their identities to enter it. He states that he has various false identities in order to do that, and he frequently disguises himself as a chef or merchant. Lug wonders if he wants him to be a chef as well, and Kian states that Lug should be a merchant, as nobles will defenselessly invite in a merchant who can acquire the goods they want. He states that he arranged for a fictional character to be born at the same time as Lug, and he is supposed to be the child of the head of the Baylor Trading Company with a prostitute. He won't be found out even if their family register is checked, and Lug can't believe that a prominent company like them agreed to forge their family register. Kian states that they owed him a favor long ago, and he states that until Lug turns 14 he will train to be a merchant as Baylor's son, Ilig Baylor. The scene then cuts to a party held by Kian before Lug's departure on his final trial, and all of the branch families of Tuatha are in attendance. The others think that Lug is the youngest ever to take the trial, and they think that he will be eligible to be the next head of the house once he completes the trial. A boy named Rona then states that he refuses to accept a young boy such as Lug as the next head of the family, and he mentions that he was supposed to be the next in line to be head after Ruff died. He states that he is stronger than that kid, and he should be the next head of the house. Kian then wonders if Rona will accept Lug if he is stronger than him, and Rona states that he will. Kian mentions that they will fight immediately, and Lug defeats him in an instant. Rona states that he wasn't ready yet, and Kian mentions that this is how an assassin of Tuatha works. Lug then puts his knife down, and Rona tries to attack him, but Lug takes him down. Kian mentions that this proves that Lug would be victorious even if they fought normally, and the scene cuts to Lug meeting Rona outside the party hall. Rona wonders if Lug came here to insult him, and Lug states that he thought that Rona would be feeling down. Rona states that he is not feeling down, he is just irritated by how pathetic he is. Lug then asks Rona if he would like to become his subordinate when he becomes the head of the house, and he mentions that he wants Rona as a knight of Tuatha, as at the last year's Young Knights tournament Rona ranked 4 out of all the participants. Rona states that this doesn't sound so bad, and Lug then gives Rona a sword as a gift, and Rona likes it. Rona mentions that he will have become a better knight by the time Lug returns from his test, and he wishes Lug luck. Afterwards Lug leaves on his test with Tart, and Lug states that from this moment on he will be Illig Baylor. The scene then cuts to Lug and Tart getting ready for their new lives. Lug uses obsidian powder to color his hair black as his silver hair was too identifiable as the characteristic of Lug Tuatha, and he states that for the next 2 years he will be Illig Baylor of the Baylor Trading Company. The scene then cuts to the merchant town of Miltu, and a girl named Maha asks a visitor if he would like her to show him around the town. The man states that a child like her wouldn't understand, and Maha wonders if he is talking about liquor. She mentions that she can take him to a great hole in the wall, and the man agrees for the tour. Maha then calls one of her workers named Carrie, and she takes the man to the liquor shop. Maha then finds more customers just like this, and we see that she has a whole group of friends who are helping her out with her business. They think that all this wasn't even conceivable before, and this is all thanks to Maha, and without her they would still be scrounging for scraps. It then starts to rain, and Maha then checks all the money they made today. She thinks that they weren't able to make more due to the rain, but they are now close to buying new uniforms, and then they will be able to give more tours. One of the girls wonders if their current clothes aren't good enough, and Maha states that tourists wouldn't like to walk around with kids wearing rags. Another girl mentions that it's impressive that Maha thought of that, and Maha states that her dad was a merchant before he died, and she mentions that considering what the customers want is the foundation of a business. The girls then think that they will be able to rent a house if they keep working like this, and few ruffians then come there, and they try to kidnap all the girls. Maha tries to save them, but it's no use, and they all get captured. The girls are then brought to an orphanage, and the director named Torin of the orphanage states that this will be their home from now on. One of the girls mentions that they were fine living on their own, and the director hits the girl and he states that those who defy them or try to escape will not be shown any mercy. The girls are then locked in a room, and they wonder what's going on. One of the girls mentions that they did this for the bounty, and she states that the guy who captured them told them that the Lord's wife offers a lot of money for helping kids who don't have families. The girls are then given some rations which are supposed to last them for a week, and the girls cook the food and they eat it. They think that they ate more than this in a single day until yesterday, and they wonder what's going to happen to them now. We then see that the girls are being made to do laundry, and sew clothes, and they are treated really roughly by those in charge of watching over them. A viscount then comes there, and he looks at all the girls in the room. He then tells Torin that he has made his decision, and he wants her to be brought to his lodgings tonight. At night a man asks the girl named Aoife to come with him, and he asks Maha to come as well. Once outside he tells Aoife to strip, and he tells Maha to wash her. Maha then does Aoife's makeup, and Torin then takes Aoife somewhere by carriage. Late at night Aoife returns and Maha goes to check on her. Aoife starts to cry, and she asks Maha to not look at her. The same thing happens over and over again, and one day Torin tells Maha that she doesn't have to worry about the makeup today as she will be entertaining him tonight. Afterwards Aoife and Maha are summoned again, and one of the girls then wonders why it's always Aoife that gets summoned. The man then states that they shouldn't get the wrong idea, and he mentions that they all are merchandise as well, and the same thing happens to the other girls except Maha. Maha then checks up on one of the girls after she returns, and the girl states that at this rate this will be the only job that she will be able to do. The girl then cuts her face on her own, saying that no one will buy her now with a face like this. 2 years then pass by, and while taking tea to the director, Maha overhears him saying that Maha should be old enough to get her own customers by now. Him and the others think that she would go for a high price as she is beautiful and a virgin. Hearing this, Maha tries to scar her face as well, but Illig comes there and he states that tears don't suit her. The scene then cuts to Torin introducing Illig to the girls, and he mentions that Illig is willing to take one of them in to serve as his right hand. Illig then chooses Maha, and Torin states that Illig has a good eye but that girl is special, and she costs double. Illig then gives Torin the money, and Torin states that this is enough but he can't hand this girl over today. He states that he will hand her over 3 days from now, as she has to get ready. Maha realizes that Torin wants to pimp her out and enjoy her himself before handing her over, and she tries to tell this to Illig, but Torin stops him. Illig then states that he has already paid for her, so she is a part of his family now, and he asks Torin to not forget this. Torin states that he won't, and the scene cuts to Maha being dressed for her first customer, and she leaves with Torin. Torin states that a regular of his has come to Miltu, and she will fetch a high price as a virgin, and after that he can enjoy her for remaining 2 days. He states that it's only a Baylor kid that's taking her in, and he won't mind used goods. Maha then thinks that she doesn't want to be defiled before she goes to live with Illig, and she tries to run away, and Torin gives her chase with one of his men. They capture Maha, and Illig then comes there to save her. They wonder why Illig is here, and Illig states that he noticed that Maha's eyes were asking for help back then. Torin then tries to stop Illig, saying that he was supposed to take her in 3 days, and Illig states that he can't expose his family to danger, and Torin and his man tries to attack Illig, but Illig takes them out easily. Elsewhere we see that Tart has taken Maha's place to serve her customer, and some knights then come there, and they arrest the Viscount for human trafficking based on Torin's testimony. Tart then flees the scene, and later the girl who scarred her face notices that her scars are all gone, and Illig then takes Maha away with him. The story continues with Illig treating his brother, and he wonders how his brother Beruid is feeling. Beruid states that he is feeling fine thanks to Illig's surgery, and Illig asks him to not tell anyone that he was the one who performed this surgery. Baylor then thanks Illig for treating his son, and he mentions that he added the name Illig Baylor to his family registry to repay Kian, but it seems that he is indebted to their family again. He wonders how he can repay Illig for this, and Illig states that they could remain a family he can return to at any time. Baylor mentions that this is a good backup plan for an assassin, and he states that he has completed the adoption process, and Illig mentions that Maha is now his official younger sister. The scene then cuts to Baylor showing Illig the blueprint of a store, and he states that he would like Illig to run this store. Illig mentions that he has only been here for 6 months, and Baylor states that he is only asking this of Illig because he is exceptional. Illig states that he will give it a shot, and he then returns to his manor. Illig then has dinner with Tart and Maha, and he states that he received a new job from his father today, and he is going to be in charge of a shop. Illig states that he will do something completely different with this store, and he mentions that he has 2 goals in his mind. The first is to make money, and the second is to stock merchandise targeted at nobles. Tart thinks that Illig must be planning to use this store for his assassinations, and Illig states that he will create a store for women, and they will primarily sell sweets and cosmetics. Maha mentions that there are already many famous shops like that in Miltu, and it will be difficult for them to enter the market. Illig states that he has a plan, and afterwards Illig is in his room, and he thinks that he is now 13 years old, and he must assassinate the hero within 5 years. He thinks that he needs to become stronger to do that, and Maha and Tart then come to sleep with Illig. They hope that Illig's next job goes well, and they tell him to let them know if they can do anything for him. The scene then cuts to Illig meeting his stepmother and father, and he states that he plans to sell cosmetics in his new store. His father states that brand matters more than quality when it comes to cosmetics, and it would be difficult to enter the market. Illig mentions that this would be the case if he were selling an existing cosmetic, but he has developed something new. He then shows them some moisturizer, and Illig thinks that moisturizers don't exist in this world yet. Illig's stepmother wonders how does this work, and Illig states that it is a cosmetic which moisturizes dry skin and preserves its condition. Illig's stepmother applies the moisturizer, and she likes it. She thinks that it's been too long since her skin has been like this, and Illig mentions that it also works as armor that protects the skin against the harmful effects of the other cosmetics. Illig's stepmother then applies her makeup on top of the moisturizer, and she thinks that the makeup sits on top of it wonderfully. She then mentions that she hates Illig, but she likes his moisturizer, so she will be keeping it. Baylor then wonders if his wife's friends would also want this moisturizer, and his wife mentions that every woman would want something like this. She states that she will even call Illig her own son if it meant she could get more of this moisturizer, and Baylor then wonders how much of this Illig can produce in a week. Illig mentions that with him alone he can produce 200 bottles a week, and Baylor wonders how long it will take to begin mass production. Illig mentions that it will take about a month, but they have a problem as producing the moisturizer requires a secret tuatha de medicine. Illig then shows Baylor the costs of importing that medicine and other necessary details, and Baylor allows Illig to handle the negotiations regarding this, and Illig thinks that all is going according to his plan. 6 months then pass by, and Illig's cosmetic shop named Orna is doing great. He has hired Maha's friends to work in the shop, and he thinks that he never expected Orna to grow this much in just 6 months. Tart then tells Illig that they have received invitations from the lords of Miltu, and also the princesses of the neighboring kingdom. Illig thinks that this has been a huge success, and now he can sneak in anywhere. Illig then asks Tart how security has been, and Tart states that spies from their competitors sneak into their factories daily, and they even bribe their employees, but they haven't figured out how to acquire lecithin as they import it from Tuatha. Illig thinks that they should be running out of patience soon, and at night Illig senses a spy approaching his bedroom. Tart paralyzes the intruder with a neurotoxin, and Maha captures him. The scene then cuts to Tart and Maha torturing the intruder, and Maha asks him to tell them who hired him, but the intruder doesn't fess up and they kill him. The story then goes back in time by 30 years, and this time the goddess summons the world's finest MC, and she also gives him the task of slaying the hero. At present the goddess checks out how the MC is doing, and she finds out that nobody understands his rapping talents in this world. The scene then cuts to Illig leaving Maha and Tart, and after he leaves, Maha thinks that she always feels lonely when this day of the month comes. We then see that Illig has gone to visit Dia, and he tells her that he has brought some sweets for her. Dia then shows Illig the spells she has made this month, and Illig notices that Dia has perfected the anti-gravity spell. They try the spell, and Illig can't believe that Dia beat him to it. Illig then gives Dia some chocolates, and Dia likes them. Illig and Dia then spend the rest of their day together, and at night Illig leaves Dia to go back. He tells her that he will be back the next month, and he then sleeps with Tart and Maha back at his room. The next morning, he wakes up, and Maha and Tart think that something smells funny, and they find out that Illig had a nocturnal emission. Illig states that this is a common phenomenon among men, and Tart and Maha mention that he should let them take care of it from now on, and Illig wonders if this is also part of his plan. The story continues, and Maha's friends are attacked by some guys while they are out in the town at night. Maha comes there, and she saves them, and she warns the attackers to never lay a hand on his girls again. The scene then cuts to Tart returning from somewhere, and Illig asks her how her job went. Tart gives Illig a pouch full of buttons, and she states that these are from all the men whose hearts she pierced. Illig states that he has heard that people have named her the lightning-quick battle maiden, and Tart gets embarrassed hearing this. Illig then mentions that he has been sending Tart into assassinations so she can gain experience, and he has been having Maha gain experience by handling information and money. Tart then states that it's almost been 2 years since they came to Miltu, and Illig thinks that their days have been busy, but because of this Orna has achieved great success, and he has been invited to many events. At night Illig tells Maha that she will be handling everything regarding Orna while he is gone, and Maha states that she will become someone who can protect Orna even in Illig's absence. She states that she will make Orna even bigger, and she mentions that she has been thinking about expanding Orna's base beyond Miltu. She states that she has found a great location for their shop as well, and Illig notices that this shop once belonged to Maha's family. He thinks that he doesn't plan to tell Maha that he has looked into her past, and he explains that Maha was the sole heiress of a famous trading company, but the company's right-hand man betrayed them. He murdered Maha's parents, and he took over their company, and Maha fled to Miltu. He thinks that Maha wants to reclaim her father's company someday, and this store will be a great stepping stone towards that. Illig then gives Maha his permission to go through with this, and Maha's friends then come there, and they give Illig a gift to thank him for helping them out. They tell him to not forget them even after he leaves, and they ask him to take care of his health. Illig states that he will never forget them, and he asks them to take care of Orna while he is gone. Afterwards Illig changes his hair color back to normal, and he states that from now on he is Lug Tuatha. Illig then states that he will leave Maha in charge of Orna, and the information network he has built, and Maha mentions she will defend their base in Miltu. Maha then gives Lug a handcrafted doll, and she mentions that her father once told her that she should doubt people before she trusted them. She states that she did just that, and she doubted Lug over and over until now. She then realized that Lug wanted to use her for assassinations, but despite that, being able to help him made her happy. Maha then asks Lug to come see her sometimes, and Lug promises that he will visit her. Lug then leaves with Tart, and Maha thinks that she will use the rest of her life to help him.
On their way, Lug asks Tart if she will miss Maha, and Tart mentions that she will. Lug states that he will let Tart make as many lecithin deliveries as he can, and Tart mentions that she thinks that Maha would prefer to see Lug instead. Lug wonders why, and Tart states that it's because she loves him. Lug states that Maha just admires him, and Tart mentions that sometimes the things Lug says are complicated.
They are then attacked by some wolf monsters, and Tart deals with them on her own. Lug thinks that if monsters have started coming down into human settlements, then the hero should be showing up soon. Lug then arrives in Tuatha, and he notices that things have changed in the 2 years he has been away. Lug then returns home, and his mother hugs him saying that it's been too long. She asks him to not leave her again, and she thanks Tart for staying with Lug. Tart mentions that she only ended up presuming upon Lug's kindness, and Esseri hopes that Tart will keep looking after Lug. Lug then asks her mother where his father is, and Esseri mentions that his father wanted him to come to his study. Lug then goes to report to his father, and Kian mentions that Lug looks like an adult now. He states that he told Lug to establish himself as a merchant, but he didn't expect him to go that far. Now there isn't a noble who hasn't heard of Illig Baylor's cosmetic brand Orna, and Lug states that it's all thanks to Baylor. Kian states that Baylor is nearly the perfect merchant, and he had Lug gain experience under him so he would learn about the world, create a mask that would serve him in assassinations, and build connections. All of this is true, but there is another reason, and he states that he wanted Lug to find a way to live, besides the Tuatha way. Lug wonders what his father means, and Kian mentions that Lug can be successful not only as an assassin, but also as a merchant, and even Baylor told him that Lug would be better off as a merchant rather than an assassin. Kian states that he won't stop Lug if he decides to choose this path, and Lug mentions that he only gained experience as a merchant to become a better assassin. Kian states that it's too late for him to change now, but Lug's hands have still not been stained with assassinations, so he can still choose another way to live. Kian then states that the Tuatha are responsible for removing the illness affecting the Alvin kingdom through assassinations, but the kingdom won't protect them if their assassinations are exposed. He states that their clients can leak some information about them even if they don't make any mistakes, and he registered Lug as Illig Baylor to give him a chance to live as a different person if he is abandoned by the kingdom, but Lug could also quit the job of an assassin, and live as a merchant. Kian then asks Lug what he wants to do, and Lug chooses to stay at Tuatha. He states that there are things that he can't do if he is not a Tuatha, and even if the kingdom abandons him, he won't let himself be captured after being trained by the world's best assassin. He states that he can always live as Illig when that happens, and he thinks that he won't carry out assassinations because he is ordered to. He thinks that this time he won't let his guard down, and even if his client is a goddess, he will always be skeptical of them, and he won't be killed again. Lug then tells his father that there is another reason for this choice, and he mentions that he is in love with Dia, and he won't be able to marry her unless he is a noble. Hearing this, Kian laughs, and he gives Lug his first job. He tells Lug that there is a noble who sells military secrets to the neighboring kingdom for drugs, and he distributes the drugs throughout the kingdom. He states that he needs to be eliminated, and he asks Lug to kill him in his own way. The story continues, and Lug tells Tart that their target is Count Asbavenkor, and he explains that the Count sells military secrets for a drug called Vizine, and he profits by distributing this drug throughout his kingdom. Lug mentions that before assassinating the target they have to make sure that he really should be assassinated, and he then writes a letter to Maha to make preparations for them to infiltrate the Count's mansion. The scene then cuts to Lug sleeping, and his mother enters his room, which makes him wake up. Lug then wonders what his mother is doing here, and he finds out that she is here to check up if he had a nocturnal emission again, and she has heard about that incident. His mother then asks him to let him see it, and Lug mentions that he would be seriously ill if it happened every day. Tart then comes there, and she states that breakfast is ready. Afterwards, Lug's mother shows him some images of girls, and she states that Lug should consider them for an arranged marriage meeting. Lug then states that his mother doesn't need to worry about this, and his mother mentions that she is eager to see her grandchildren. Tart then tells Lug's mother that Lug is still too young for marriage meetings, and Lug's mother mentions that she doesn't want to wait until she is an old lady to have her grandchildren. She then asks Tart if she is going to bear Lug's children instead, and this makes Tart embarrassed. Lug's mother then thinks that this seems like a really good idea, as Tart is not a noble and she also has mana, so she shouldn't be much trouble, and they can begin to conceive immediately. Lug then asks his mother to stop teasing Tart, and his mother mentions that Lug shouldn't take this tone with her, and she thinks that her little Lug has gone astray. The scene then cuts to Lug changing the color of his hair at night, and he heads out to Count Venkor's domain with Tart to check out the situation there. The story then goes back in time by 25 years, and this time the goddess reincarnates the world's best paparazzo with the mission of killing the hero. At present, the goddess checks on how the paparazzo is doing, and she finds out that he is disappointing like the rest of them. Lug and Tart then arrive at the town of Pizir, the second largest merchant town after Miltu, and they notice numerous wounded soldiers in the town. Lug thinks that this must be the result of leaked military secrets, and they then come across a girl selling jam on a street, and Lug finds out that the jam has drugs in it. He then destroys the girl's supply of jam, and seeing this, a few ruffians come there, and Lug defeats them all. Lug then asks the girl if she knows what she is selling, and the girl states that she is doing this because of her mother. Afterwards, the girl takes Lug and Tart to her house, and they notice that the girl's mother is addicted to the drug in question. She asks his daughter where her vizine is, and Lug then uses a technique to make it so that the mother's body no longer needs the drug, and he leaves with Tart. Lug then returns to Tuatha, and he finds out that they have received a shipment of cosmetics from Orna. Afterwards, Lug finds a letter from Tart among the cosmetics, and he finds out that the ringleader is Count Aspa Venkor like they thought, and he distributes the drug to other lords' regions, and he claims that the mafia transports the drug through his region. Lug mentions that he also sends bribes to high-ranking nobles to gain their favor, and due to this the royal family can't harm him. Tart then thinks that this is a job for the Tuatha, and Lug mentions that they are going to assassinate the Count. The scene then cuts to Illig and Maha on their way to the Count's mansion after being invited, and Maha states that it's been a while since they were last together. Illig mentions that it hasn't even been a month, and Maha states that even that much time is too long for her. Maha then asks him if things have progressed between Illig and Tart since the last time, and Illig states that they have not. Maha then mentions that Illig used to go to the brothels to blow off steam when he was in Miltu, but it must be challenging as he doesn't have such places in Tuatha. She states that Tart was nearly in tears every time Illig went to the brothels, and she mentions that Illig should use her as this is what she wants. Illig then asks Maha why she wants them to have a relationship like that, and Maha mentions that Illig should understand that Tart doesn't see him just as a family, she sees him as a man, and Illig should look at her more. Illig states that he can try looking at her, but he can't accept her. Maha wonders if it's due to Dia, and she states that Tart wouldn't mind being second to her, and Illig should keep some mistresses as he is a noble. Maha then mentions that there are two other girls beside Dia who love Illig, and she states that she also loves him. She mentions that she won't be actively pursuing him until Orna grows even more and she becomes indispensable to him, and she will use that to negotiate with Illig when the time comes. The scene then cuts to them arriving at Count Venkor's domain, and Illig thinks that this land seems wealthy for a city whose primary industry is agriculture. Illig then arrives at Count Venkor's mansion, and he is greeted by her wife, and she states that she is looking forward to checking out Orna's new products. Count Venkor's wife then tries the new products of Orna, and she wonders why Illig wants her to try these products first. Illig mentions that currently no one has more momentum than Count Venkor, and as his wife everyone is watching her closely. Venkor's wife states that she is happy that her husband's business is doing so well, and she states that a few years ago they were poor nobles. Count Venkor then comes there, and he greets Illig, and he then leaves. The scene then cuts to Illig at a party organized by the Count's wife, and he shows off his products at the party. The ladies then go after his products, leaving him, and the Count thinks that Illig's products seem to be more popular than him. Illig then mentions that he has heard that the Count's business is going well, and the Count mentions that it's just a small business, and the Baylor company doesn't need to keep their eye on it. The party then comes to an end, and Luke states that according to the Count's wife, the Count loves to enjoy a bit of wine before bed while gazing at the moon, and he gets into position to shoot the Count when he gets out in the balcony to gaze at the moon. He asks Tart to keep watch while he shoots the target, and the Count comes to the balcony, and Luke shoots him. He then notices the Count's wife crying over his death, and he thinks that killing has never moved his heart in the past since he was a tool back then. It's different now, but he doesn't regret carrying out this assassination as this is who Lug Tuatha is. The scene then cuts to Lug returning from an uninhabited island with Tart, and he meets Maha on shore. She asks him how the uninhabited island was, and Lug mentions that it was the perfect place to practice magic, and he thanks Maha for finding it. Maha then states that she has good news, and bad news, and while traveling by carriage she explains that she has located the divine treasure that Lug asked her about. Lug then explains to Tart that a divine treasure is a tool possessing unbelievable abilities, and it can't be made by human hands. He states that they have existed since ancient times, and Maha mentions that the divine treasure she found is the magic spear Gibalg. She mentions that she is currently negotiating the purchase of said spear from its owner Satanta Magnus, and this man is most likely the hero. Lug then asks her if she will be able to acquire this, and Maha mentions that she might be able to do it. Maha then states that the bad news is that a civil war has broken out in the neighboring kingdom of Swoigel, and the Vikone house has joined as part of the kingdom's army. On the side of the rebel forces there is a soldier giving them a lot of trouble, and it's Satanta Magnus. The scene then cuts to Lug visiting Dia, and she wonders if Lug has brought chocolates with him today. Lug then asks Dia if she is alright, as they are in the middle of a war, and Dia mentions that it's true that there have been some skirmishes near the capital, but they are so far away from here. Lug then asks her if House Vikone is not involved in the war, and Dia mentions that House Vikone has plenty of magic users so Lug doesn't have to worry about them. Lug states that he has heard that impudent nobles insulted the royal family, and started a rebellion, and Dia mentions that this wouldn't have happened if Swoigel had aristocratic assassins of their own. Lug then states that there is a man with a divine treasure in the rebel army, and it's possible that he is the hero, and if he is then human strength won't be enough to defeat him. Lug mentions that he can use his identity as Ilig Baylor to allow Dia and her family to escape to a safe kingdom, and Dia then asks Lug to stop talking. She mentions that as the daughter of Count Vikone she has the responsibility of protecting her land and its people. She states that she can't run away from this, and she then mentions that she is just kidding. She states that they should go out, and she mentions that her father and advisors are currently away, so she can go into town. Lug worries about her safety, but he gives in to her, and the scene cuts to the both of them in town, and they are both disguised. Lug then asks Dia where she wants to go, and he tells her about famous places to eat around here. Dia mentions that Lug knows more about their food options than her, and Lug states that it's only natural as he has been coming to visit her since they were children. Lug then notices that there are a lot of veteran warriors nearby, and Dia mentions that the draft has brought in a lot of people with military experience. Dia then notices a store with an archery game, and Dia asks Lug to win a teddy bear for him. Lug then tries to hit the target, but Dia mentions that this would be cheating with Lug's skills. Lug then teaches Dia how to shoot instead, and Dia hits the bear on her third shot. Dia then states that she wants to eat lasagna for lunch, and Lug mentions that he knows a special place for that. The story then goes back in time by 20 years, and this time the goddess summons the soul of the world's finest teacher, and she mentions that she wants her to teach the hero. The goddess then searches for a soul which can prevent the world from the destruction which the hero is about to cause, and she finds one. Back to the present, Lug and Dia have some lasagna, and Dia thinks that Lug can probably make a better lasagna than this. Lug states that he can, but eating it together with her makes it tastier, and this makes Dia embarrassed. Dia then mentions that this makes it tastier for her as well, but she would rather eat something that Lug made for them together. Lug then states that he will cook for her the next time she is in Tuatha, and afterwards they notice a lost child, and they find out that he has been separated from his mother. Lug then asks Dia to search for the child's mother's calls, and Dia uses her magic to do so. She finds the child's mother, and they reunite the child with her. Dia then states that she is glad that they were able to find the child's mother, and she mentions that Lug really is kind. Lug states that he only did this for himself, as he wants Dia to remember their time together fondly, and ignoring a lost child will make for a sour memory. Dia states that Lug is kind, and she then mentions that she will take him to a special place as a reward. Dia then takes Lug to a hot spring, and they enter the hot springs together. They both then play in the water, and Lug then teaches Dia how to float in water. Dia mentions that Lug seems to know everything, and Lug states that it's thanks to his parents. Dia then mentions that she loves Vikone just like Lug loves Tuatha, and that's why she wants to serve the interests of this town until the very end. She mentions that her father is currently in the battlefield, but he is really strong, and he is even good at losing. Lug gets confused hearing this, and Dia explains that even if her father loses, he will come back alive, and he is also good at post-war cleanup. She mentions that this is why she has to greet him warmly and support him when he comes home, and Lug states that this must be why she doesn't want to flee. Lug then mentions that he will keep things ready just in case, and they then kiss each other. Afterwards, Dia thanks Lug for today, and she mentions that she is going to be busy for a while, and she won't be able to see Lug until things calm down. She states that she will let Lug know when they can see each other again, and Lug then leaves telling Dia to take care of herself. After Lug leaves, Dia tells everyone that they can stop now, and we find out that all of the townspeople were actually soldiers, and Dia then says goodbye to Lug. Later, an injured man comes to Lug's house, and Lug wonders who this man is. Kian states that this man has hired them to assassinate Dia Vikone. The story continues, and Kian mentions Lug can also turn down this job, and Lug states that it is unwise of them to meddle in another kingdom's affairs. Kian mentions that Lug is right, and if their involvement is uncovered then it will become an international matter. Lug then mentions that their house carries out assassinations for the benefit of the Alvan kingdom, and he can't see how killing Dia would accomplish this.
Kian then states that there are personal feelings behind this assassination, and he states that House Vikone fought the civil war in Swigel and they were defeated. Lug then mentions that House Vikone has paid their post-war reparations, and Kian states that Vikone has surrendered most of their wealth and land, but the rebelling nobles also want Dia, as she is beautiful, and she is also good with magic. She is likely to produce a good heir, and any greedy noble would want her.
Kian states that both Count Vikone and Dia agreed to this arrangement to prevent needless bloodshed, but their vassals wouldn't allow them to hand over Dia, and they even cut down the envoys who came to pick her up. Kian states that the people of Vikone have also formed a volunteer army, and they have confined Count Vikone and her daughter inside. Kian mentions that the Count is being treated as an instigator of a civil war, and an army has already been dispatched to his castle. Lug wonders if they want him to kill Dia to put an end to this war, and Kian states that the client is Count Vikone himself. Kian mentions that this man risked his life to convey the Count's orders, but this is a fade. Lug then understands that Count Vikone and his family is going to die no matter how this plays out, and he wants to pretend that Dia is dead, and let her escape. Kian mentions that this is the only way to save her, and only a Tuatha can carry out this mission. Lug then states that he will accept this job, and he mentions that there are 3 reasons for his decision. He states that firstly, he owes Dia for teaching him magic, secondly, he loves Dia, and thirdly, he promised Dia that he would come running to her side if she was ever in trouble. Kian then mentions that he has only bent his principles once in his entire life, and it was for his wife Esseri. Kian then explains that Esseri is also a daughter of House Vikone, and he states that he never thought that his son would make the same choice. Kian then wishes Lug luck, and afterwards Tart states that she will assist Lug. Lug mentions that his destination is more than 300 kilometers away, so he would be moving as quickly as possible, and it's too far for Tart. Tart then mentions that she can't accompany Lug the entire way, but she can share her strength with him, and she states that she can carry him partway there, and this will help Lug conserve his mana. Tart then uses a wind spell to shield Lug from air resistance, and she runs as fast as she can with Lug following her closely behind. Due to less wind resistance, Lug doesn't have to use much of his stamina, and Tart then uses up all of her magic partway through. Tart then asks Lug if he loves Dia, and Lug states that he does, and Tart asks him to promise that he will return with her. Lug states that he will, and he then continues his journey to Vikone, and Tart starts crying. Back at Tuatha de Esseri thinks that seeing Lug leave reminds her of her past, and Kian mentions that he feels the same, but Lug is stronger than him. The story then goes back in time by 14 years, and Goddess finds a soul suitable for stopping the hero's rampage, and she thinks that she will await the death of this soul. Back at present, Lug reaches Vico-Ne, and he notices that the enemy forces number around 1500, and Vico-Ne's forces are fewer than 200 men. Lug then notices that the enemy also has more mages, and he wonders how Vico-Ne's forces are holding out when they have such a disadvantage. Lug thinks that the enemy seems cautious of projectiles, and he realizes what's going on. Lug then thinks that he is an assassin, and he doesn't like to kill unnecessarily, but this is war, and the conditions for victory are rescuing Dia and faking her death. He thinks that for this he will kill anyone who gets in his way, and he will show them no mercy. Lug then snipes the magic users among the enemy's ranks, and the enemy forces then take defensive positions, and they start firing back with arrows. Lug then thinks that according to their quick response the enemy should know what guns are, and due to Dia using her gun they are not sending their magic users at the front. Since Vico-Ne can send its magic users to the front, it has an advantage, and this is why they have managed to hold out until now. Lug then uses wind magic to listen in on the enemy, and he finds out that they are confused, and he thinks that this is his chance. Lug then uses a bow and arrow to fire some charged far stone, and this causes massive explosions on the battlefield. The forces of Vico-Ne then notice that the enemy is in disarray, and they use this chance to launch an attack. Lug then uses this battle as a diversion to sneak into the castle, and he takes a dead body with him as well. He thinks that he needs to fool everyone in order to fake Dia's death, and for that to happen he can't be witnessed by the soldiers inside the castle as well. Lug then meets Dia and her father, and Dia is happy to see Lug and she hugs him. Meanwhile, Maha receives a message in Miltu, and she asks Noin to prepare a messenger pigeon to be sent to Tuathida, and she thinks that she must notify Lug about this. The story then goes back in time by 14 years, and the goddess states that the death of the reincarnation candidate for stopping the world's destruction is confirmed, and she then summons the assassin to her world. Back at the present, Dia is glad that Lug came for her, and Count Vico-Ne states that he thought that his daughter was a stranger to romance, but it seems that someone has already stolen her heart. He then introduces himself as Dimor Vico-Ne, and Lug states that he came to here to respond to his request. Dimor mentions that he did ask for Dia to be taken away, but she might be taken away in more ways than one. This makes Dia embarrassed, and Dimor then states that his vassals locked him in here because they knew that he intended to surrender, and Lug asks him what he wants to do now. Dimor states that he will manage somehow if he is alone, and Lug then mentions that he will set fire to this room, and their story will be that Dia committed suicide. Lug then shows them the fallen soldier, and he mentions that she will help them fake Dia's death. Dimor then states that it seems Kian has a marvelous air, and Lug asks Dia to shout out the window that it pains her to see her people getting hurt because of her, and tell everyone that she won't belong to anyone. Lug states that after that he will set fire to this room, and Dimor mentions that he will only tell of this to his commander, and he will be sure to allow his vassals to escape amidst the confusion. Dia then tries to do what Lug asked of her, but Lug senses danger, and Satanta then uses Gibalg to attack Dia, and Lug dodges it with Dia. Lug then tries to use his bombard spell on Satanta, but it only injures him a bit. Lug then notices that Satanta is using the S-rank skill Berserk, and he states that this skill is triggered by anger, and it can increase a person's physical and magical abilities. Dimor then tells Lug to take Dia and escape, and he mentions that they can no longer spare any resources to fake Dia's death now that he is here. Dimor explains that this is the person who ended the civil war, and when the royal family realized that no one could stop him, they surrendered. Satanta then states that it seems that this battlefield has a talented warrior, and he mentions that he will allow him to choose whether he wants him to slaughter everyone here, or if he will duel him as a knight. He states that he will withdraw his forces, and will no longer make a move against Vico-Ne again if he loses. Lug then thinks that the Berserk skill should cause an ordinary person to lose all sense of reason, and he thinks that the odds of an ordinary human having both the Berserk skill and the skill necessary to suppress its after effects is really low, so this person must be the hero. Meanwhile, Kian receives the letter that Maha wrote earlier, and he finds out that the hero is in Vico-Ne. Back in Vico-Ne, Lug thinks that he can't run away as Satanta has completely zeroed in on him, and he states that he will accept his challenge. Dia then mentions that Lug can't beat Satanta in a duel, and Lug states that she is right, and he will lose if he duels Satanta, but he is an assassin, and he will fight Satanta like an assassin does. Lug then launches a projectile in the air, and he asks D Mort to come with him as they will need a witness if they are going to settle this with a duel. Lug then states that he is going to assassinate Setanta, and the scene cuts to the two of them meeting each other. Lug states that chivalry demands that he identify himself, and he introduces himself as Fairy Marconi. Setanta states that he will remember that, and Lug notices that Setanta's wounds have healed completely. Lug then asks Setanta if he will withdraw his forces if he loses this duel, and Setanta states that he will, and he mentions that he can impose a Hayaz on himself to make Lug trust him. Lug states that he does trust Setanta, but he might end up killing him in this duel, and he is uncertain if he will be able to keep his promise. Setanta mentions that no one has spoken to him like this before, and he then tells the commander of his army to keep his promise in case he dies. The commander states that he will, and Lug wonders what will happen if he dies. Setanta states that he will kidnap the princess and kill everyone here, and Lug states that he can't allow himself to lose hearing this. Lug then tells Setanta to withdraw his soldiers as he doesn't want them to be caught up in this, and he states that there is no need to kill them if simply winning against him will put an end to this war. Setanta then tells everyone to stand back, and Lug then stalls Setanta to wait for the projectile he launched earlier to fall, and he mentions that their battle will begin as soon as this coin falls to the ground. As soon as the coin falls onto the ground, the projectile Lug launched earlier falls on Setanta, and Lug explains that this assassination spell is based on something that was being developed by a country from his old world. He mentions that in this a metal is dropped from orbit, but there were issues about launching large masses into the orbit and preventing them from disintegration upon re-entry into the atmosphere. But it is easy for him to counter that with the use of magic, and this is the spell he trained with on that uninhabited island. Coming back to the story, we see that a big blast occurs due to Lug's new weapon, and after the blast subsides, Lug states that he developed this weapon to defeat the hero, and he then faints. Dia then finds Lug, and she is glad to see that he is alright. Dia then asks Lug why he came to save her, and Lug mentions that he promised her that he would come running if she was ever in trouble. Dia then states that she will repay this debt in her own way, and Lug mentions that she shouldn't worry about this, as by fulfilling his promise he is repaying his debt to her. He states that if she repays him back then they will keep repeating this cycle over and over, and Dia mentions that this doesn't sound so bad. Lug then kisses Dia, and he thinks that this is the first time in his life he has failed a mission. The scene then cuts to Lug returning to Tuathada with Dia, and Count Vico Ne goes into hiding. Kian then congratulates Lug on completing his job, and he states that from now on Dia will conceal her identity and live as Lug's younger sister. Kian then mentions that he recently found out that the hero has appeared in the Alvan Kingdom, and Lug can't believe that Setanta was not the hero, and we then see the hero, Lord Epona Rhiannon. Thanks for watching the entire series. Please like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and make sure to hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to keep getting new anime recap updates.